In the studio by Philip London, who is a development planner. He's joining us now. Good evening, sir. Good evening. We're grateful that you could join us at such a short notice. Now, you are a planner. We want to explore from your viewpoint, from what you see as a development planner since 1958, 1960 up to today. The structure we had as a country in terms of planning of our physical infrastructure. Have we done better? Have we grown? Have we improved?
Well, first of all, I'm not a development planner. I'm a land economist.
A land economist,
and,
okay.
Business developer. Now, you know, in the period talking about the 50s, 60s, we had a 7-year development plan that was directing our national development agenda, and we were making progress. In fact, we were making a lot of progress. We're making a few mistakes along the way, but at least we had a program that we were moving on, and that was the guiding trajectory that our whole national development plan was based on. And we will continue to make progress. Along the way, because of some political turbulences, Kwame Janto made reference to the military coups, which played a very key role in reversing a lot of the progress that we're making. They in their own way, brought certain progress, but on the overall, we came back a little. So, in terms of our development from that period, yes, we had a lot of development. And if you compare, well, I know that's not what you're asking, but if you were to compare that to Zimbabwe, which was then Rhodesia, they were also doing a lot of development at that time. Their political system was entirely different from what they have today. But they were also making a lot of progress. And the progress wasn't benefiting the majority of the population. That's how come they had their political transition. But in terms of progress, yes, we're making a lot of progress.
We made a lot of progress. Yes. Now, if we look at the fact that since 1966, 1972, 1975, 1976, 1979, 1980 to 1983, Ghana's growth rate was negative. So it was an indication. Now, what we are told is that this negative growth was experienced generally when it coincided with government changes and etc., etc. So we've had longer periods of negative growth.
That's right.
Which has not been good for the projection we want for ourselves in the long term.
That's true.
Are we making strides to correct all the mistakes we made since the 60s and up to 83, where we recorded negative growth? What you see, does that convince you that we are on the right trajectory to get it done better?
In terms of political system, I must say that right now we've made a lot of progress. We've put things in place to ensure that we don't make the mistakes of the past. Our legal system, our media environment, our business environment, our business laws, free zone establishment, our bank, foreign exchange management and Bank of Ghana management of the economy and all that, the way it is today is a far cry from what it used to be before. And it is a result of developments over some of the mistakes we made as a country, especially during the military regimes where there were decrees that would determine that if you have a certain amount of money in the bank, it should be seized. If you have certain assets, it should be seized. If you have some business of a certain size, it should be seized, etc. You should sell at a particular price. You know, all kinds of things didn't help us. But we have gone from there. We have developed our systems, and the systems we have today are far better than we had then. The challenge, however, is that we must ensure that we put people in place. People in positions of authority, people in positions of decision making, who have the knowledge and experience to take the right mix of decisions to ensure that we achieve what we want to achieve. But if we have all the best things in place and we do not, in any key project environment, we don't find somebody who can really do the job to do it, we may not make
as much progress. Now, you know, let's get realistic. Let's look at infrastructure, the nature of our town planning, our spatial development. I'm looking at key things we can show as things we have achieved since 1960. Do we have enough to show?
Unfortunately, in that particular area, we have very little to show. In the 60s, our town planning and spatial planning was much better than it is today. The only good example we had was Tema. Today we have some local residential gated communities that are very well managed. You know, certain clusters of communities that are very well managed. But in terms of our metropolitan areas, our cities and towns,
But those are high-class dwelling. Those are middle-income and upper level kind of earners who can afford that kind of living.
Well, yes, upper level, but all the upper level earners are not necessarily based in those clusters of residents. You know, I'm talking generally about the towns and things. The same principles that are used to manage those areas are the kind of principles that we should use to manage our towns and cities. Those in our local governance management should be able to take the kind of decisions that are essential to ensure that we have proper management. But if they are not able to, but we are doing more politics, we are more interested in doing things to get a brass band to come and show that we are cleaning the gutter, instead of making sure that we have systems in place to ensure that the gutters are clean all the time. We design the construction of our gutters in such a way that debris doesn't get into it. You know, if we lose that type of focus, then we will not be achieving much. It looks like we have been emphasizing too much on the politics of it as against the practical development. The
reality on the ground. Right. Now, when you compare the development we have made and the progress with the likes of Malaysia, I raised that issue. Where have we faltered?
I'll give you one example. You know, when I was a student in tech, one of my lecturers, he used to tell us about how when they were students, a lot of the students were from Malaysia and they had come to study. And they used to laugh at them because the students from Malaysia were always, and Thailand and all those places, were always studying. And the Ghanaian students were having a good time. Now, those people went back to transfer their knowledge and build on what they had learned. A lot of what they are doing today, they learned from us. But what did they do? They were consistent, they developed it, they worked at it, they didn't break, they didn't go into unnecessary politics, they focused on the development. And today, they are way ahead of us, which tells us that there was something we were doing wrong. Because at the end of the day, they were learning from us. So there's no difference between us. Our environments are very similar. Maybe climates might have a small variation, but it's very similar. The crops they are producing are the same crops they are producing. We have more minerals than they do. In terms of manpower, you can match any of your colleagues working in any of those countries. So where have we gone wrong? The problem is the leadership. We have, as a country, we have emphasized too much on things that we shouldn't emphasize on.
Like?
Oh, you know, we are too interested in, when we are discussing a matter, and we have to discuss it. The average discussion is that, well, your party did this and my party did that, or his party did this and that his party did that.
Yeah, I mean, your party didn't grow the country to an extent, and we came to continue, and we have left a bridge for you. You broke the bridge down and put up a gutter instead.
That is not what
you think we have trivialized our development strategy.
We have.
You make reference to a development plan. Is that what Ghana needs now?
We need to have that, because you see, if we don't have that, yes, governments will come with good intentions. The current government has some very good intentions, but those good intentions should marry into the good intentions of the previous government and the previous government before that. And other subsequent governments that will come should be able to follow the same plan.
So consistency, continuity is key. So if we had done that, you would say that if we had done that since 1960, we would have been way ahead. And Malaysia possibly would be behind us.
Exactly.
No matter how far they've come, we will still have been ahead.
Because in terms of manpower and resources and everything, if at one point they were learning from us, we had every reason to keep the tempo of development. We should have maintained it. I mean, if somebody comes to learn from you and you've taught the person, by virtue of that, you know, you should always be able to maintain. But in our case, we sat back and have allowed them to overtake us and get far ahead. And, you know, the issue of Zimbabwe, I mean, for me, Mugabe making these comments,
it's laughable, right?
It is sad. Now we want to use the word sad, you know, because at the time of independence, where Zimbabwe was
and where they
are now, he has run the country down so badly, even political system. Touch wood, if anything happened, I mean, look, we lost our president the last time, a very sad thing. But what happened in that very sad situation that Ghana found itself?
It was an exhibition of maturity.
We won the admiration of the whole world. The opposition put all their problems against the ruling government aside, supported them. Parliament came together. There was a successor. Smooth transition. Everything worked well. There was no problem.
If that happened in Zimbabwe, that would have been chaos. Philip Landry, very grateful for your time on today's Big Story. My name is Stephen Enti, and we couldn't raise Professor Jimambedu Akosa back on the telephone line. I think the lines were bad. We'll be right back with an interactive segment. Do stay.